What relationship did God have with the inspired writers?
Now, prophecy, when Peter says this, prophecy here is an inspired utterance or a divine declaration. It's something that is said that is not from the inside of a person. It is inspired by God, breathed out by God. Its origins from God, but it is breathed through or spoke through a human mouthpiece. So it is a declaration, but it's not a declaration of man. It's a declaration. It's a divine declaration from God through a human mouthpiece. So there's a difference between, let's take Peter here. There were conversations Peter had that were not inspired utterances, and there are words that Peter said that were inspired utterances. So a prophecy or to prophesy is to speak something because it's being spoken through you and you become the mouthpiece of what is said, but you're not the originator of what is said. So prophecy is something that is generated from God, produced by God through human instruments. Now, when you hear someone say, let's say you do something for someone that's a blessing, and they say, I'm just the instrument. I'm just the instrument. The blessing comes from God. I'm just the instrument he's using to give this blessing to you. So when we talk about instruments, that's what we're talking about. An instrument in the hands of God. A tool is in the hands of God. A tool is not doing the work. A tool is the means by which the work is done. Okay. So if I have a hammer and I'm using that hammer to put nails into a board, let's say I'm hanging a board on a wall, and I'm using that hammer to hammer in the nails. The hammer is not doing the work. I'm doing the work. The hammer just becomes the instrument or tool in my hand by which I do the work. And I have here, or vessels, you'll probably see on your screen. So it's the vessel by which God does the work, but God's the one doing it. So then people become the mouthpieces, the instruments or mouthpieces by which the declaration from God is given. So God's declaration is given, but he gives it through human mouthpieces. And I think it's interesting that the contrast that Peter's making here, which I have to be careful I don't go off on the rabbit trail because we're going to get there eventually, is the majestic glory spoke without a human mouthpiece. And I believe that's the more reliable word of prophecy. But scriptural prophecy was given through human mouthpieces. And what does this prophecy include? It includes the words used, it includes the phrases, and even the meaning of the phrases, working through the intentions of the biblical author, moved on by God in the historical setting in which they were written. That's a big statement. We're going to get into that further as we go through this. So what is God? What is the inspired utterance? What is the divine declaration? What does it include? Is it just the words and then a meaning is implied from somewhere else? Is it the phrases and the meanings implied from somewhere else? Or is it also the meaning? And I would take the position that that the prophecy includes the words used, the phrases, and the meaning of the phrases, but that he also, the scriptural revelation, divine utterance or inspired utterance, includes the working through the vessel, the human intentions of the biblical author, moved on by God in a historical setting through which they were written. So God is not, it's not like there's an utter disconnection between the author. It's not like the author it's not like the human author ceases to be the human author when God is inspiring them to write or speak. They're still very much themselves. And they're still very much in their historical setting. They're still speaking to the same people, but God is inspiring them to speak. And that is why when I read Paul or Ezekiel or Isaiah or whatever, I can actually recognize certain speaking or writing attributes that they have that is exclusively to them. When I read Paul, he has certain tendencies with how he writes, and I can recognize Pauline, when we talk about Pauline phraseology, Pauline writings, even though Paul was being inspired by God, God used Paul as the human vessel, but he used Paul in his historical setting according to capacities. So everything, including everything that's surrounding the inspired utterance, is included in inspiration. So God inspired the words, the phrases, and the meanings in a particular time and place, in history through a human vessel. And all those things are connected. And I think God's powerful enough to use all those things together, congruently working together.